Collect the big things of the world that you can't just steal or buy or carry home by making a picture of it. It's sort of a preservationist attitude, I think. So let me see, where should I go from here? So the work you're seeing, like I said, it's from a bunch of different kinds of places. This is an aerobics studio, which fits, even though exercise isn't exactly escapism. I mean, I guess it is for some people. But I guess there is that dream there of becoming, you know, a different body than you are now. I work on, you know, I'll go out and just look for things to photograph or look for a place to photograph and just kind of follow my nose, which is important. I think as a photographer you have to follow your instinct. But I also would get hung up on these projects. This picture is actually from a project I did, which was the first book, called Governor's Island. So this is the aerobics studio that was abandoned at this point on a former Coast Guard and Army base in the New York Harbor. And a weird little obsessive note is that the sponge painting on the wall, I see my initials in there, LK, over and over again. So I don't know what that says. So Governor's Island was a project that was sort of given to me, this, you know, a ghost town really, but you know, I photographed places that I didn't consider part of this body of work, like a school, the commissary, you know, sort of more banal places. But there was also, you know, going back, the aerobics studio, there was a movie theater that you'll see later. There were, you know, because it was a ghost town, there were all the different sorts of things you would have in any kind of town, which would include a movie theater, a Burger King, a bowling alley, all the things that people need to stay happy. But the other sort of subsets or subplots, motels, which is the next two pictures, like I said earlier, strip clubs, etc. And I would just kind of zero in on this one theme and then seek out over and over again in sort of a serial nature these kinds of places. So motels was it for a little while. Haunted houses was a later project, which I just did one last month. Yeah, in November, but I made them from about 2004 to 2007 pretty steadily. And this is from a haunted house. God, where is this? This is in Connecticut. It's called Fright Haven. And actually, Fright Haven couldn't open this year. They couldn't afford to. So that was surprising, actually, because I just read, I think it was yesterday, that the Broadway ticket sales are at an all-time high or something, which is most likely directly related to the recession and people's need to escape. And I'm sure everybody's aware that, like, vampires are the big thing right now, which was not a surprise to me, going to these places over the last few years and sort of seeing slowly the interest getting bigger and bigger. Another place I visited a lot is Coney Island. You know, I recognize Coney Island and some of my subject matter as subjects that are very photographed. And in the case of Coney Island, I think that it's a challenge to me to go to this place that's been photographed so often and by so many great photographers, and to try to see it differently. And I hope that I've done that. And actually, this picture is really a technical mistake. It's a technical failure. Because I was shooting handheld and I was pushing the film, I didn't have a tripod, and it was getting darker and darker. And it's actually not as dark as it looks in this picture. It's just, for photographers here, you'll understand when I say that the film was just underexposed. So there was a lot more that I could see, but the film didn't render it. You'll see words appear a lot in my pictures. words and numbers and letters. And I think that has a lot to do with the fact that I'm sort of a failed poet. I always intended to be a writer, and that's not that strange for a photographer. There are a lot of photographer writers, photographer poets. And actually, in college, I had a poetry. Actually, he was a lit teacher. He wasn't a poetry teacher. Tell me I didn't have the love of language necessary to be a poet, and that has still stuck with me. You can tell I know the exact quote. And I was really devastated at the time because for my whole life, from fourth grade on, when I won a writing contest, I thought, okay, that's what I'm going to be. I now realize that he was right, but I think that if you insert the word visual in there, then he was wrong, because I have a love of visual language. I just don't have the right sort of gut reaction to verbal or written language. But that said, you'll see words appear over and over again, and one of the kinds of poetry I was interested in college was Dadaist poetry, which is made up of lots of little bits taken seemingly at random from here and there. So if you flip through the book and just read the words, they kind of make a Dadaist poem in a way. Another subset was strip clubs. This is a peep show in California, private room. Something I did from, I'd say, 2000 to maybe 03 or 04. Of course, if it was fairly easy to gain access to a place today, I would definitely do it. But I stopped seeking these places out. I guess I get obsessed with something, and then you kind of do it, and then you're ready to move on. And actually, I think this was the last peep show type thing, strip club, that I photographed. This was 2005. And, I have this sort of magnetic pull to all of these kinds of places. And I think it comes from, a desire to understand what makes people tick, what makes people drawn to these kinds of places. Because I have a love-hate relationship with all of these places. These, I see it as kitschy or nostalgic, but I also see it as just visual gluttony. And some photographers here would understand the idea of a camera being armor. And going into these places, or even places I would normally go to have fun, like a circus or a carnival, I don't really have that much fun at. And that's just sort of my mildly depressive attitude that I can't seem to escape from, which fits with the whole thing. So the camera, in a way, gives me an excuse to be there and to not actually worry about having a good time or not. This is the back of a curtain at a haunted house. A relative of mine came to see one of my shows and walked over to me, and the first thing he said was, there's nothing so depressing as trying hard to have fun. And I was like, oh, only family would understand that right away. Is he here? I don't know. Picture like this. This is a closed-down music store window in a downtown in the South with a bullet hole in the window, which is hard to see. Something like this, I'm just finding myself somewhere, walking around, waiting to turn that corner and just see this amazing sort of ready-made scene. Whereas a picture like this is part of the strip club project. This is actually a swingers club in Daytona Beach. And half of the battle is getting access. When you make interiors, on private property, you really have to get your foot in the door. And really, I don't know why half of these people let me in. I really don't.